In today's quick singing tips, we're talking about having a breathy voice. It may be that you naturally feel like your sound has a lot of airiness or breathiness in it, or it may be that you have a clearer sound and you want to add a little bit of breath to your voice in order to add colour to a song or to suit a certain style. So in today's quick singing tips, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about both. If you've got a breathy sound and you want a clear sound, what can you do? And if you've got a clear sound and want to add a bit of breathiness, what you can do to achieve this. But throughout the whole video, talking about how to do these things in a healthy way. I once attended a masterclass with Anne-Marie Speed, who does a lot of still voice training, and she said a great quote: "We want breathiness to be a choice, not a necessity." However, a lot of us do have quite breathy voices. I'll be very honest and say that when I was a teenager, I had the breathiest sound, and it wasn't until I went to music college at 18, I was singing every day, I'd grown up a little bit, that I was able to get a clear sound. So why might you have a breathy tone? Let's think about how the voice works. We take a breath in. On our exhale, the air moves out of our lungs, up the windpipe. When it gets to the vocal cords, we use the right muscular coordination to bring them together to vibrate. And this makes sound waves that then resonate in the vocal tract. When our vocal folds come together and vibrate, we want them to be touching. They move through these cycles. And just to put it in perspective, when I sing an A, my vocal folds will be vibrating at around 440 times a second. So they're touching 440 times. Now, if our vocal folds are really coming together, then we're going to achieve a clearer sound because less air can escape. However, if our vocal folds aren't fully touching when we vibrate, then that's going to cause air to come through the vocal folds, the glottis, the space between the folds, and it's going to cause some air to escape, and therefore we might have a breathier sound. Now, there are lots of reasons why you might have a breathy voice. However, if you do, you really want to do some exercises to encourage your vocal folds to come together when they touch. I'd advise doing some things to understand breath control, some semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. I'll pop some links up here so you can follow those if you want to find out more. If you do have persistent breathiness and you've done lots of these exercises, of course, do go and get checked out. Go and see an ENT just to check that there isn't anything stopping your vocal cords coming together. It's also really common throughout hormonal changes. Teenage girls in particular just tend to have a breathier tone and find it harder to get the vocal folds to touch. So it could be due to hormones and age as well that you do just have a breathier sound. And remember, if it is something that's ongoing and it is bothering you and you want to get a clearer sound, go to a singing teacher, go to a voice professional and work with them on some exercises that are tailored to your voice. Now, let's think about maybe if we want to add some breath into our sound. It's particularly popular at the moment in contemporary music. Think about singers like Billie Eilish. She puts a lot of breath into her sound and air, and you can make a really lovely tone. It may be that you're singing jazz as well. Oh, and you want to add some breath to give that character and colour to a certain note. There are just some things we need to consider. So as I said, if you think about how the voice works, if we're always singing with this air driving through, we often don't have as much control over our voice. We can't control our airflow and pace our breath so much. And also it can be really fatiguing, letting this air escape and not allowing the vocal folds to come together when they're making the sound. So we just want to be really mindful about how much we use this breath in the voice. Maybe at first you're just adding it to the odd notes. Then you can explore maybe a little bit of a phrase. But again, if you're going to try and sing a whole song in a breathy tone with a breathy voice, go to a professional and work through it with a teacher. Now, if you are singing at home and working with your own practice and you want to start adding a little bit of breath to the sound, there are a few things you can do. First of all, I'd recommend starting at maybe a higher pitch and in our head voice, our thin fold register. Just trying some sighs with a little bit of breath at the start of the sound. Ah, ooh, why? Starting with a wah. Yeah. Ah, imagine imagining the breath just falling, flowing through. So keeping it really light. Don't try to add any weight into the sound at all. Then you can start to add more pitch to it. Ooh, ah, ooh. When I do that, I still can feel that I am using my muscles of exhalation and having a little bit of support. So it's also really helpful to make sure that you're not just pushing and driving lots of air through. What happens if you want to just add a little bit of a breathy tone onto a note? You might want to play around with these muscles of exhalation. What if you increase that support a little bit and imagine that air flowing out? Again, I wouldn't do this until you are on top of your technique. You can get that clear tone and you understand how the voice works. So remember that this is a quality of the voice. It's adding colour to a certain note or a phrase, and we want to be really mindful. So play around with those more primal sounds. Ooh, ah, imagining a bit of a whisper, and then it becomes more of a voiced whisper. But be really, really mindful. We don't want to cause vocal fatigue. If you're singing like this frequently, the voice might get tired. So just start to play around with maybe adding it to one note, maybe a little bit of a phrase, and see how it feels and how it works for you. Let me know how you get on. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more quick singing tips and plenty more content across the whole channel.